Hello there and welcome to my review of Batman Begins, a film by Christopher Nolan. And anyone who's watched my 4-part series on my top 100 movies will know just how much this film and his other Batman films mean to me. I love these films. I've been a fan of Batman ever since the Christmas of 1991, when Tim Burton's first Batman film was aired on television for the first time, British television for the first time. It was those films, Tim Burton's Batman films, that got me into the character in the comic books. And after years of reading Batman comic books and being severely let down by Joel Schumacher's era of Batman films, Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins was exactly the film that I wanted to see. One of the brilliant things about this film is we don't get to see Batman for the first 50 minutes. This is all set up, it's character development. We understand the motivations of Bruce Wayne, why he became this mythical figure, this dark avenger of Gotham City. Because of that, we're invested in this character like we've never been before. I still love the Tim Burton Batman movies, but it was always very one-sided. Most of the character, it was essentially just one character, but he would either wear the costume or he wouldn't. With Batman Begins, with Christopher Nolan's film, and with the way that Christian Bale plays that character, we get three different characters. We get the Batman, the animalistic Batman, who's just this creature of the night. Hence the reason for the voice, which I've never had a problem with because it makes perfect sense if I'm honest. One, he wants to scare the criminals of Gotham City, and two, he wants to disguise who he is. And when he's in that costume, he becomes something else, and that's why quite naturally that voice would come out. Got no problem with that whatsoever. The second person is Bruce Wayne, the billionaire playboy, who is basically a disguise for Bruce Wayne. It's his true disguise to hide the fact that he's Batman. So he plays this idiotic billionaire, the kind of billionaire who would burn down his own mansion in a drunken stupor, and he does it brilliantly. Some of the best moments of humour come out of the film through that persona. I love the scene when he decides to take a bath with two models in a hotel little fountain thing. It's funny. And then of course the third character is the real Bruce Wayne, this hurt kid is essentially trapped in a man's body. He's still this kid who his entire life has been shaped by this one incident, and he's hurting, and he needs a father. He looks to Alfred for guidance to replace the father that he no longer has. So you got these three characters, these three aspects of Bruce Wayne, Batman, that have always been there in the comics, the comics that I've read anyway, and to see it up there on the screen for the first time was just amazing. Christopher Nolan has always had a concern for the mind. All of his films at some point deal with psychological aspects. They deal with how the mind can trick us, how the mind is unreliable, and it makes perfect sense then that in this film, his first Batman film, one of the villains should be the Scarecrow, a psychiatrist who plays with the mind. He deals with fear, and fear is a state of the mind, and this film is all about it, about how we control fear, how we deal with fear, and how fear presents itself, the effect that Batman himself has on the criminal underworld. The whole point of that character is to inspire fear in criminals, and this aspect is just, you can see why Christopher Nolan was attracted to this comic book character. Out of all the possible comic book characters Christopher Nolan could make a film about, Batman makes perfect sense, and the Scarecrow makes even more perfect sense, being in there as a villain. He is of course only the secondary villain to Liam Neeson's brilliant Ra's al Ghul, and this was an excellent role for Liam Neeson. A lot of people credit taken for his kind of rise, his recent rise as this like older action star, but it really started with this film. Liam Neeson is kick-ass in this film. He's the guy who trains Batman, and in the two fight scenes he gets with Bruce Wayne and Batman, he just brings it. He shows that he is an action star, and he can go toe to toe with someone who's much younger than him and much more of a physical threat in Christian Bale. There's a trio of supporting actors in Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman and Gary Oldman, who all are just brilliant in their roles. I've got to confess that when this film was first announced, I wasn't sold on the idea of Michael Caine as Alfred the Butler. I just couldn't imagine that thick London accent that he has being in a Batman film and working, but boy was I wrong. When I saw this, just Michael Caine is the perfect Alfred. He just brings that fatherly figure kind of identity that is really needed for this character, and I love him in this role. The same with Morgan Freeman, he's perfect as Lucius Fox, and Gary Oldman is the quintessential Commissioner Gordon. Well, in this, of course, he's just Officer Jim Gordon, but the character we know is going to become Commissioner Gordon, he's absolutely perfect. Of the 3 films in the trilogy, this probably has the weakest soundtrack. The music is by Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard, and in the context of the film, it's a brilliant soundtrack. It works perfectly as you're watching the film, and there are bits that jump out, some of the main themes that are really they're really catchy. They stick with you. But when you listen to the soundtrack to this film on its own, it's actually quite dull. There's a lot of really just quiet moments, kind of almost just ambient sounds. One of the criticisms that's often levelled at the film is Katie Holmes' performance as Rachel Dawes. I got to say, I got no problem with her performance in this film either. When I first saw this film, it didn't register to me that she was giving any kind of bad performance. I bought her character, I was fine with her performance. It was only after the fact, long after the fact, when all these reviews were coming out and everyone was pinpointing Rachel Dawes, the character of Rachel Dawes played by Katie Holmes, I was like, okay, people have got an issue with her in this. I don't have that issue, I'm fine with her. That being said, Maggie Gyllenhaal does give a much better performance in The Dark Knight as that character. I would have preferred her as that character right from the get-go, but still, I have no problem with Katie Holmes' performance in this film. As a Batman fan, one of the things I really love about Batman Begins is the way that so many characters from the comic books are just littered throughout. For many people, the character of Zsasz, Victor Zsasz, probably a lot of people didn't even notice him in the film, and like if you're not a comic book reader, if you've never looked into the character of Batman, me telling you who Victor Zsasz is right now, you'd probably be struggling to remember who he was in the film. However, for me, I loved that character in the comic books, and what was an even greater surprise is that as a James fan of the band James, they're a Manchester band, that character is played by Tim Booth, who is the lead singer of that band. So for me, that was a real treat in the film and it was a surprise. I was sat there in the cinema and he just appeared as this character, and it was a really nice surprise. I loved that moment, and I love that like quite a big character in the comic books can be dropped in like that in such a minor way, but still have a great impact on me as a fan of the Batman character. It proved that comic book movies can have multiple villains in them and still be strong movies. It's like it doesn't suffer from the Spider-Man 3 effect, because it doesn't try and give the same amount of emphasis to each villain. Christopher Nolan knows how to write a script, Jonathan Nolan as well, and David Goyer does a great job of the story, of structuring the story, and they just prove that when you use characters right, in the way that Scarecrow's used in this film, and the mob bosses are used in this film, then you really can deliver something special. A lot of people may have been disappointed that Scarecrow wasn't used a lot more, but his character is used in the right way. For the themes that this film presents, that's the character that was needed. And to play him down as more of a minor role to the greater villain of Ra's al Ghul just didn't bother me, because they got the use of the characters right. One thing that did bother me a little bit when I first saw the film was that some of the fight scenes are filmed in such a way that the camera gets in quite close and the cuts are really choppy, and it means that you often can't really tell what's going on. And when I see a fight scene in a film, I do like to be able to just see what's going on. I like to see who's throwing the punches. That being said, again, I think the way that it was shot kind of feeds into the character, the animalistic nature of Batman. This guy attacks like a beast, like a wild animal. So because of that, I I see that it was a creative choice, I see why it was done, and I can kind of let that slide. Despite that most minor of quibbles, this is as near to perfect as a film can get. I don't believe that there is such a thing as a perfect film. No matter what the film is, you will always be able to find something to criticise in it. Anything, The Godfather, The Shawshank Redemption, whatever it is, there's something there. If you look hard enough, you'll find it. So, as close to perfect as a film can get, this is it. I give Batman Begins a 10 out of 10. So the character of Zsasz in this film was played by Tim Booth, who I've already pointed out is the lead singer of a band called James. For me, as a fan of both Batman and James, that was a real nice surprise. So it's a really good cameo. So here's my question to you. What's your favourite cameo in movie history from someone you really love, who you didn't expect, you didn't see it coming, and when you saw it, it was just a really nice surprise? Comment below and let me know, and until next time, thanks for watching.